Today's Expert Connections is a crossover between our Marketing Connection segment and AI. You will meet a marketing agency owner who has created his own GPT that is now in a pilot program to help his clients. Expert Connections starts now. We've talked about custom GPTs, even shown you demos of how to create one. Today on Expert Connections, we're going to talk with a marketing agency owner who has not only created a custom GPT, but is now putting it to use for his clients. Welcome to Expert Connections. I'm Julie Holton. We often talk about the power of ChatGPT and using AI to build business solutions. Today, we're going to take a little bit of a different twist and talk about some marketing solutions. We've also talked about custom GPTs. Well, today's guest has a combination of both, building a custom GPT, and we're going to ask him all about it. Adam Stoker is the co-founder, president, and CEO of Relic. That's a full-service destination marketing agency. He's also a published author and host of the Destination Marketing Podcast, a weekly podcast with more than 115,000 total listens. Adam, welcome back to Expert Connections. Good to see you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Julie. Really glad to be here.
Adam, I loved our conversation over on the Marketing Connections playlist, that segment of Expert Connections. Today, though, I want to talk to you about some AI solutions because you have, oftentimes in the marketing world, I hear of folks, content creators, designers, graphic designers who are a little unsure, maybe a lot unsure of AI and all of the changes that it will bring. You are someone who is just really grabbing this whole idea and embracing it, which is what I think marketers should be doing. So tell us, what is your philosophy? What is your approach on AI?
Yeah, I would say that there's a lot of marketers out there that are nervous and that have questions. In fact, one of my favorite quotes is I can't remember who the originator was of it, but I still like the quote, and it says, you know, AI is not going to replace you, but smart people who know how to use it will. And I like that, and I think that's the attitude that you have to take here with AI is a little bit in the realm of that. Also, the Moneyball quote. I don't know why I'm all quote heavy all of a sudden, but in Moneyball, I just remember Brad Pitt looking around the room saying, "Adapt or die." And
Mhm.
it really is true. We look at this technology and the adoption of AI. It's the fastest adopted technology in the history of mankind. And so, for those of us that are a little bit of the doomsday people that are so scared that it's going to reach singularity and it's going to kill us all, like I've heard all of the doomsday scenarios, and I just got to say, if that's the case, it's out of your control. There's nothing you as an individual can do. To be clear, I don't believe that that's going to happen. I don't believe that AI is going to kill us all. But that is like the worst case scenario. Here, my opinion is if this is the fastest adopted technology in the history of mankind, it sure seems like something you're going to want to be on the front end of instead of just letting it happen to you as a marketer. And so for me, when I looked at AI and the adoption that's happening, I actually scheduled several meetings with my organization, and we said, okay, how do we figure this out? How do we problem solve? How do we look at what's going on and make sure that we're staying on the front end of it? And I'll be honest, I had some people in my organization who were very, very resistant to the idea of using AI at all. Um, and those people actually have gotten frustrated and have left our organization. But again, I just don't think that, especially as an advertising agency, and there's lots of other agencies out there that people could hire, if we decide just because the way we've always done something is the way that we need to continue to do it, we are not going to be one of the people that are successful with this. And one of the things that I look at in just business in general is when you are an early adopter, there's a lot of risk that comes along with it. But I would say the risk compared to the reward is different enough where it's worth it. If you take a risk and try something and it fails, maybe you lose a little bit of investment or something like that. But if you're an early adopter and you win, the results could be amazing for you. And so for us, it's very important. I'm not terribly risk averse. It's just not really who I am as a person. And so because of that, um, because I'm not very risk averse, the idea of being an early adopter and trying something new and that it could take off and go crazy for me, well, that's worth it because the risk doesn't really scare me anyway, right? And so that's been my approach to it, and that doesn't mean that I know everything there is to know about AI. I think I've got a ton to learn, and the rapid pace at which innovation is taking place, I think I think it's going to be difficult to know it all, right? But my attitude is let's try stuff. And so far, so good, I would say.
I love that, Adam. And so, in the world that you and I are in, our agencies, marketing, advertising, graphic design, there are a lot of ways that we've been using AI or AI related technologies for years that really have not been talked about too much because I think people, for instance, folks who use Canva, whether it's a business or someone who is a graphic designer, perhaps maybe using Adobe Photoshop, but Canva, for instance, the background removal tool, AI, right? So we've been using AI in many ways and maybe in some small ways. Beyond that, how have you been incorporating AI into your business?
Yeah, I think that's where I look at what, and I really like that you said that AI has been around for a while because it's not like this brand new thing. However, these large language models like ChatGPT and Google's Gemini product and a lot of the other ones that are out there, the large language model is essentially you find a way to index an incredible amount of information across the internet and use that information to train a model to answer questions using that information. So, one of the things that I saw is that when you've got an organization who wants to have accurate information presented to the world, you actually can, like a tourism destination, and like you mentioned, I do a lot of work with tourism destinations. It's very, very important that people get accurate information. So, for example, if I'm planning a trip and I say, what are the top 5 restaurants in this destination? And AI spits out 5 restaurants. Well, I really hope those restaurants are still in business because if they're not still in business, my brand can now be hurt by the fact that AI talked about a restaurant that isn't there. Somebody goes and actually, tries to go to a restaurant and it's a brick building or something. It's
Mhm.
not a good situation. And so it's really, really important that that information be accurate. And so I love the idea of a large language model, but I would say that there's actually a lot of organizations who can be hurt by a large language model because it's not guaranteed to have accurate information. And so the first thing that I did is I said, well, I've created an incredible amount of content. I've got over 300 episodes of my podcast. I've got a book that I've written that talks about branding for destination marketing. I've got a variety of other pieces of content that I've created. I wonder if I could create a small large language model, if that makes any sense. And so we took all of that content and we uploaded it as the brains of a new GPT in Chat GPT. And it's called Destination Marketing Agent. And so when we did that, I was testing Chat GPT against the Destination Marketing Agent. And so one of the things that I said, and in your previous episode that we talked about, I talked a little bit about my owned media philosophy. And so I went to ChatGPT and I said, I'm a tourism destination. I want to create a plan for an owned media strategy. And I want to understand, how to execute that. How should I divide out the budget and all this stuff? And it spat out a lot of tactics, like an overarching philosophy, and then a lot of tactics, but didn't give me a budget or percentages or anything like that. And then I went to the destination marketing agent, and with the same exact prompt, I asked the destination marketing agent, which is my content, what I should do. And it gave me similar strategy description and similar tactics, but layered on budget percentages because I've talked so much about how to break out your budget and make sure that you're accommodating for the different tactics that fit into an owned media strategy. And so it was much more specific and comprehensive. through my chatbot than it was through ChatGPT. And so when I saw that, I was like, oh wow, I think I may be onto something here. And now we've used it for a variety of different kinds of things, and we are seeing that it's much more accurate and specific to what I would say when you're asking destination marketing agent versus chat gpt. So then I said, well, you know who else creates an incredible amount of content is a tourism destination. Why don't we take what we learned building this for me, and let's try to do the same thing for tourism destinations. So I now have 5 destinations in a pilot program where we're building out this product. We want to create custom chat GPT, small, large language models for tourism destinations. And so far, the results are really, really exciting and compelling. I won't have all of the data until we get finished with the pilot, which is probably going to be in the next 3 weeks.
This sounds awesome. So, okay, so for our AI enthusiasts who are watching, they're going to want to know what are some of the challenges you've had? And also, what are these data points that you are collecting information on in order to determine how, the quality of your content, how often there may be hallucinations or other issues? Talk about some of those challenges.
Well, and you can turn on and off the access to the internet. So my first suggestion would be if you're trying to build a custom GPT and you want to limit what information can get in there and limit the hallucinations, things like that, you need to turn off the access to the internet. Of course, you have to have enough content in there if you want to be able to do that. But that's a great way to limit the hallucinations in a situation like this. The other thing that I would say is there's a variety of types of content that destinations create. The way this works is we are giving them basically the parameters of what type of content they should upload. We're scraping their website, for example. They're sending us all their blog posts, and they're sending us all the different content they've created, but we're asking them to remove anything that's no longer updated. And so, if their website's up to date, usually that should be the single source of truth as far as like, and we're prioritizing, by the way, in the model, that website content, right? Um, so it pulls website first, and then it goes to the next assets and the next assets to try to pull as much information as it can. So one is turning off the web browsing. I think is a big deal in making sure that the information is accurate. And then, of course, making sure that what you're creating the brain with is accurate and valuable content. And I think the last thing that I would say there is ChatGPT actually is really challenging to, it's not like you're just uploading a PDF or 17 PDFs when you've got different content. There's a lot of formatting and changing. And I mean, the content that we uploaded for mine wasn't even visible to the human eye because of the formatting requirements within ChatGPT. But of course, ChatGPT has the ability to read it even if it's too small for the human eye. So there's definitely challenges that we've run into. Those are a couple of examples. And I'm actually not the one constructing it. I've got really smart and innovative people on my team who are leading this project. And so maybe if we were getting deeper into specifics, I would probably have to bring them in for that part of the conversation when we get to the technical stuff.
Yeah, I think we'd have to bring in someone with more of a technical brain to even ask the questions, Adam, if that were the case.
Yeah,
I'm,
good point.
right. So I'm curious too. How are the users then interacting with this information that's in these learning models or large, small? I like how you keep saying small, large language learning models. And I'm curious how they're interacting now and what you just as an expert marketer dreaming big, how you envision this going in the future.
Well, this is one of the downsides of ChatGPT right now. I think this will change over time. But for now, they don't give us access to what questions are being asked, how many chats are we getting. Those are all things that we're hoping that they roll out over time. But we're so early in this that I don't have the answer to some of those questions yet, unfortunately. Um, as far as my vision for it, is that I want this to be an owned media asset, just like other things that destinations are creating, right? So just like if you're creating a podcast for a tourism destination, it's going to provide answers, but if we're looking at like what the experience is for the end user, people are going from an era of information where if I do a Google search, I'll get 10 links and I have to go do a bunch more research after I get those 10 links from Google, to an era of answers where they want to ask a question and they get the correct answer immediately, right? And because of that shift, I feel like taking all of your content and owned media assets and using that as the brain will allow you to come with the audience from that era of information to the era of answers where you're giving it to them in the format that they demand it. And I want to add one more thing there, and that's the fact that when we really look at websites, I think we have to be asking the question of, are websites even going to matter in the long term? And the reason I ask that question is if everybody's on ChatGPT asking questions, and which, with the speed of adoption, there's millions and millions and millions of users on ChatGPT asking questions. If they're continuously getting the answers they want, why would they come to your website? And what that actually means is I've had a lot of people say, well, I don't want to build a custom chatbot for my organization because I want it on my website. And ChatGPT hasn't unlocked that yet. But my answer would be, what does your what does your website matter if the audience isn't going there? So another great thing about these custom GPTs is you're meeting the audience where they are, which is what they demand.
Absolutely. That's the backbone of marketing, right? Putting the content in a place where the audience already exists and making sure that they are getting the content they're looking for, where they're looking for it. I tend to be on the same page. I think that I don't know. I just kind of the dreamer in me, maybe the movie enthusiast who's seen a few AI sci-fi movies. I just imagine these chatbots interacting with us almost like a human experience, interacting with these bots who are responding. I was just having a conversation last week with a client that's looking to build out their own AI chatbot, but kind of harnessing this power of creating a visual likeness and
Hmm.
creating the audio and having the answers be given even almost as you and I are interacting right now. So where this all goes, who knows? I'm sure in 6 months when we look back on this video, we'll think, oh, wow, how much things
Yeah.
have changed since then. And that's the fun of AI right now.
And I think my response to that is the only thing that you can guarantee by not getting involved is that you will be farther away from where it ends up when it gets there than you will be if you continue to try to latch onto it and innovate and keep up to date. So that's my fear is the people that are saying, I don't want to deal with this. There's going to be a lot of pain in that situation.
Yeah, there's a lot of history that speaks to that. Companies that didn't didn't create websites, didn't, keep up with the internet or other any advancements,
Yeah.
any innovations that have happened. Adam Stoker, thanks so much for being on the show. Loved having you on this AI connection segment, as well as our marketing connection segment. So if you want to hear more from Adam, especially as he touched on what the Destination Marketing Podcast is doing, what his team at Relic is doing in the destination marketing world, head over to our marketing connection segment. Adam, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks, Julie. Really appreciate the opportunity.
Be sure to subscribe to Expert Connections for weekly episodes, and we'll see you next time.